Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Roberto Monaco here. And today I have my brother from Winnipeg, Canada, Dr. Richard Ledda. What's up, Dr. Richard?
Hey, yo, Roberto, how are you doing? Good to be here. Thank you so much for having me and inviting me. I'm super excited to share with your audience, my friend.
Oh, I love it. I had the huge pleasure to be a guest in your podcast, the Chiro Inspired podcast. By the way, if you never listened to, there's a link below. Straight can go to iTunes. I include the link here. Dr. Richard, man, and we were just connecting before we actually went live here. And one of my favorite things about you, it is your work ethic. I see the podcast. I mean, I think you do more than you do. Like, how many times a week do you do them?
I launched 2 episodes audio wise, but like today I'm doing 2 interviews. On Friday, I think I'm doing 1 or 2. So I'm doing interviews all the time.
I just love it, man. I just love it. So the topic of a discussion, Ted, you're doing today is about how to build your influence in your community through content creation. And I don't like the topic. I love the topic. So, Dr. Richard, why is that important? By the way, we have chiros here. We have non-chiros listening to us. We have business entrepreneurs, coaches, speakers, consultants. So why is it important for us to do that?
Well, thank you again, Roberto, for the opportunity. But I think it's really important that we start creating content, not only to get your influence out there, but to, better the profession. And if you see what's on, things like media, Facebook, all we see are commercials for, pharmaceutical companies, medication. And I'm actually a firm believer that we need medication. We need medical care for the emergencies, right? And I think
of course
many people would agree with that.
Yeah,
you're just getting all this like a blast of all of it, with any single news channel that you're on, whether it's ABC, CNN, Fox News. So as chiropractors, in order for us to get our word out there, we have to be super consistent and maybe perhaps even louder. What's the other word I'm looking for? But just continuously making content so that we can educate our followers, but the people that need us most. And I think the people that need us most are actually the ones that haven't really utilized chiropractic because they're missing something. They've been robbed of this opportunity to live life to their fullest potential.
It's funny. Well, first of all, I want to get into the creation story of a podcast because I'm always interested in the story behind, a product or service. But you said something is important is that a lot of people, they have been robbed. Non-chiropractors have been robbed because they never were educated about chiropractic care anyway. My family was, I was robbed. I was robbed for 40 plus years. My wife was robbed. My kids are not robbed because we broke the cycle. I had one of my clients, she's a trainer for the mortgage industry. And because I do a lot of work with chiropractors, when they reach out to me and say, hey, I noticed that you do a lot of stuff chiropractors. You know anybody here in Arizona? So I refer a chiro to her and literally change her life. So I'm super grateful for influencers like yourself and other influencers that help spread the message chiropractic. So what's the story? Why you come up with the idea of a podcast? What's the story behind it? What was the burning desire?
Well, the burning desire was, I think at the time, Canada was going through some rough patches in terms of what was coming up in the media, going back to it, like CBC here, the National Post, Globe and Mail, just attack after attack on the chiropractic profession. And I was really down from that. And my practice took a toll. I started getting, I guess, somewhat depressed with what was going on, questioning, was this the right profession? And I think a lot of people go through that mindset sometimes if they've really felt that down. So I was going through that. And the best way I actually overcame those feelings was actually connecting and communicating with my colleagues. So some of my good friends are chiropractors. They just freshly opened, and we were having these conversations with each other. And it was really an opportunity to reflect back and be surrounded with people, but also exchange energy. And get inspired from one another. And so I was a regular consumer of podcasts. I don't even listen to music as much anymore. If I'm at the gym, it's a podcast. If I'm driving to work or the office, I should say, it's a podcast. If I'm going to the mall, it's a podcast. Only time I listen to music is if it's like 9 p.m. in the evening and I've podcasted out, or because she loves the music more, and I'm okay with that. But I'm continuously listening to podcasts, and I've always been one to say, how can I contribute to my profession? How can I give to my fellow colleagues? How can I uplift them if they're feeling down like I am? And I found that, hey, I can actually create this podcast. And I didn't have to be on video at first, but now you'll see that I'm on video because I think it's will reach more people with video. And I would challenge actually people to do the same thing. Yep. But I started with audio because I was like, okay, well, I can really listen to my voice. I don't mind the sound of it through a good mic. I didn't really like seeing myself on video and audio together. So I started with the podcast, but I said, you know what, screw it. People need to see my face. People need to see my guest face. Video is so powerful. And we have this opportunity to create content, to get it to the masses, whether you're promoting it to their chiropractors or other professions or the general public. It's just crucial that we continuously create things in order to push the message of chiropractic forward.
I love it. I love it.
And so that's why the podcast was born, my friend, because I had these conversations with people. And I said, why don't I just record this and publish it?
And what has been since? So how many episodes total have you done?
I think I just launched 123 yesterday. Yeah, with Dr. Christopher Kent, and that was almost celebrating the 125th year of chiropractic.
That's awesome. Wow, I almost matched too. 123. That's phenomenal.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So a couple things, a couple questions. One, I know you most of your podcast you interview other chiros to help chiropractors. Mm-hmm. Does that has helped you in your practice with patients or no? Or it's totally separate?
It has tremendously helped me with my patients and my practice members in my practice, because what it's allowed me to do is really get good at listening and asking better questions. Because as you're doing these conversations, even through Skype, it's a lot harder, or StreamYard or online, it's a lot harder to do these conversations versus in person. And what I found with doing a lot of these interviews online was, when as being the interviewer, you are thinking in your head right away, like what to ask next. Mm-hmm. So you have to be constantly listening. You have to be constantly figuring out what you're going to say next, how you're going to elaborate. Mm-hmm. And that has transferred into my practice. So my communication skills with my practice members has grown exponentially just through interviewing via online means. And that has translated into my practice, my in-person skills. I'm very introverted. If some of you know me in person, but I got very introverted. So it takes a lot for me to get out there and meet people. And that was actually a thing with my patients. But once I started doing more of these conversations, it got a lot easier.
I love it. Do you forward do your patients know that you do podcast? Do you send your podcast to them?
Some of them do. Some of them do. I don't promote it to my patients, but some of them find it just by searching me up on Google or DuckDuckGo, whatever you want to use nowadays. Richard Ledda, because they maybe saw a Facebook ad or some of my organic content, and they're like, "Oh, he has a podcast." And I have a lot of people saying like, "Oh, you have a podcast?" I'm like, "Yeah, but it's not actually geared towards you. It's geared towards my profession." Mm-hmm. But they tune in anyways, and they see you as more of a figure and an authority in your community, because you're doing something that's more so published and you've created something.
Okay, I love it. What has been after 123 episodes? What has been a couple lessons that you learned? That if you were to start again, from the beginning, what would you do differently, or if anything?
I would just, I think advice-wise, I'll give myself a reminder is you have to be consistent. Be consistent and produce as consistently as much as you can, because when people see consistency from you, they see that more accountability. And that's huge, especially in the online space. If you're trying to create a name for yourself and build authority, build your influence, people want to see that you are consistent. And the other thing is be patient, because this is a journey you're learning. If you listen to my first, 10 episodes, terrible. You're going to learn, you're going to grow. And every time you press record, every time you go live, you're growing in the process. And not everything's going to be perfect. It's just like practice. It's not this one shot uphill, trajectory that you're going to hit. It's kind of wavy, and you're slowly going up, you're slowly growing. And I think people just need to remember that. Be patient and, be consistent.
How do you find guests to your podcast? What's your criteria to finding people that you want to interview?
Great question. So I actually just clarified that this weekend, and there's this thing about like A-listers, B-listers, C-listers, D-listers, and I think it's going to be different from person to person that is maybe listening to this. But the Chiro Inspired podcast is really a platform to equalize our voices. It's a platform to give people the opportunity to showcase their voice and tell their message and tell their story. So I might have a D-lister that just graduated from school, or maybe is in school still, but they still have a story. And from that story, we can get some sort of inspiration. We can learn a life lesson. We can get empowered. But then I share that same platform with an A-lister. And so what happens there is that the authority levels, they kind of rise and they equalize a little bit more, because what I've hopefully done with this podcast is given people the equal opportunity to showcase their voice.
I love that. I love that. So, if a doctor right now is listening to us and be like, what I want to build my authority, my influence, my community. I think every doctor who is passionate about chiropractic and wants to help more people, more patients, make more money, to be like, yeah, that sounds good. Would you recommend them to open up or build a podcast to other chiros, to patients, their community? If you were to for them to launch a podcast for patients, patient direct, what would be some things that they should look for?
You're talking about building an influence and authority in their community?
Yeah. So, like through podcasting, for example, because that's something that you did and you do very well. So, because some chiros, they're listening to us right now, they'll be like, okay, I love the work that you do, but I don't know if I'm building a podcast for other chiros, for example, would it be beneficial for me? Yeah. Maybe would it be beneficial for me to launch a podcast for quote unquote potential patients, talk about health and wellness? Yeah. Do you feel that's a good idea? Number two, what would be things that they should look for, or maybe some resources that could help them to achieve that goal?
Yeah, I would say do what you want, really. If you want to do a podcast for the profession, do it. If you want to do it for your patients, your practice members, or your community, do it. It doesn't matter, but just go back to those same principles as be consistent with what you're doing. Because let's say someone hears you have maybe an interview or something that online, and they search you. Maybe they see a Facebook ad going back to it, and they want to search up, okay, I want to search up Roberto Monaco, and they see that you have podcasts and you're just consistent, you're producing. They see you automatically as the authority or an authority within the profession. So that goes a long, long way. I would say, if you're in terms of resources, if you're trying to build a podcast, you can really learn this stuff online for free on YouTube. I used a guy named Dr. Ed Osborne. He helped me with the laptop lifestyle. And another one was Pat Flynn with Smart Passive Income. He has a free resource on YouTube just to teach people how to create a podcast. And you can actually make one for free. You don't need to pay the stuff that I pay for. I pay like $40 a month for hosting, but you can actually do this stuff for free now. So the resources are on YouTube, but that's just what I did. And if you need help, really just reach out to me.
I love that. I love it. So what is the future the future of podcasting? Because I'm sure you know about the industry. So what is the future of podcast?
With my podcast,
Yeah.
I think it's going to gear towards still being that voice for chiropractors, but I actually envision Chiro Inspire to be something bigger. And I've said this before, that whether it's going to be a seminar, a retreat, a summit, an academy, there's still something expanding in my mind, and I just don't want it to be the podcast. Right now, it's a video podcast that you can see via Facebook Lives. It's going to be on YouTube soon. You can find it on any platform like Apple Podcasts or Spotify. But I'm just going to continue giving to this profession as much as I can and giving people a platform to showcase their voice. And really, that's the future of Chiro Inspire, really.
Love it. And what is the future in your perspective? What is the future of this beautiful profession called chiropractic?
Well, it's interesting. I think we're in interesting times, and not just chiropractic wise, but in the world, with everything going on right now, you see bigger divides in people. Even within chiropractic space, you'll see this in the medical space too, but in the chiropractic space, there's this false dichotomy that, people that might claim themselves to be evidence-based versus salutogenic or vitalistic chiropractors, principled chiropractors. To me, if you're a principled chiropractor, and as long as you're trying to follow the evidence as best as you can, you're still an evidence-based chiropractor. So there's this false dichotomy that I actually learned from Dr. Ankur Tayal, so credit to him, that there exists within this profession. Yes, there will be differing opinions. Yes, there will be different discussions, debates occurring in the profession. Even amongst the principled vitalistic camp, people are still trying to define subluxation to a degree. And to me, the bare minimum, chiropractic has to do with the vertebral subluxation, the detection and the correction of it. And what is subluxation to me, it includes something at least pertaining to the nervous system. Now, some might say that it's a juxtaposition of the bone above and below a segment. Some might just say it's neurological, and that's where the debate is right now in terms of subluxation. But there has to be that neurological component to it. And even if you're an evidence-based chiropractor, I think we shouldn't throw the what's the word, the phrase, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Mm-hmm.
There's still value in understanding and researching this model of a subluxation, and there's power in it. And it might be a hard word for our patients and practice members to understand, but there's still something there for people to learn, and we just need to do a better job of understanding it. Yes, researching it. Yes, gaining the research, but teaching it, communicating to the public, and that's where I'm hoping to unify the profession in that way. And I understand there probably will never be a true united profession, just like any profession. But if we can continue to have active minds, discussions amongst each other, we'll become stronger as a profession.
I love it. Well, the good news that you interview, all the chiropractic leaders, and you can do, and you are doing your role to unify the profession. I just interviewed Dr. Joe Merlo, and he was a great guest talking about unifying the profession. What has been the biggest lesson you learned throughout those last 6 months, you personally?
Try to remain persistent, of course, but optimistic as well. Learn to take the time to reflect, because in that reflection you can learn a lot about yourself. And sometimes you just need some time to slow down and do that. And I think the last 6 months was an opportunity to do that. With all
what did you learn? If you don't mind asking, what did you learn about yourself the last 6 months?
I learned I have a lot of work to do.
We all do. Hey, we all do. That's good.
Yeah,
we all do.
Yeah,
we all do. I love it. Why? I heard this story before. Why? But some listeners haven't. Why did you become a chiropractor?
Well, I became a chiropractor. I maybe have to go back a little bit more, if that's okay with you, Roberto. When I was about 16 or 17 years old, I was very overweight, pre-diabetic, They labeled me as obese for my age. I had chronic asthma where I had to take 2 inhalers every single day. I had that blue puffer that you would puff into. So I just want you to imagine a bigger version of me, okay? I had dark patches around my eyes here, and my skin was bloated. It was really dark. And I had something called metabolic syndrome, which I found out later.
Yep.
I was very unhealthy as a kid growing up. And, my parents did a great job raising me, in my opinion. They did the best that they can with the knowledge that they had, and I honored them every single day for it. A lot of what I do is for them. When I was about 16 or 17, just in between there, I lost my dad to a massive heart attack. It was
How old were you again? 15, 16?
It's in between 16 or 17. I think
Okay.
it was actually 16, yeah.
Okay.
And so I used to work at Wendy's. You know what Wendy's is?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was called a grill master, and so I had to prep everything from the burgers coming out of the not the freezer, the refrigerator. I had to get all the vegetables ready, and I was working. I remember just getting the potatoes out, and then my manager calls me to the back, and she says, "Richard, come to the back. Your brother's on the phone." And it's very weird because my brother's 11 years older than me. Okay, so imagine a guy that has a little bit more facial hair on him. He looks just like me. He's 11 years older, and he's calling me at work. I give you that age gap because me and my brother actually never got along when I was a kid. So to get a phone call from him was very weird. And so I run to the back, and I answer the phone, and it's him, and he says, "Rich, get ready because Auntie Lucy's picking you up." And I say, "Why?" He said, "Rich, get ready. Auntie Lucy's picking you up because Dad just had a heart attack." And so, not knowing what's going on, I was very confused, and I was sitting outside, waiting for my aunt to pick me up. And she picked me up. We went to the hospital over here, and as we entered the room, the reception room, you can see all the families together in the chairs, and I couldn't find any of my family members because I have another sister, I have another brother, and my mom. And all I can hear in the background was this faint crying. And as soon as the nurse took us and started walking us to one of the rooms, you can hear that crying get louder, and it turned into screaming. And as they opened the door, it was actually my sister screaming that he's gone.
Oh.
And that was the day that I decided that I actually never wanted anyone to go through that experience that I did. I dedicated to myself that I'd become healthier, that I wouldn't end up where my dad did, dying from a heart attack like that. And I had to change something. So every single day in high school, I would run around my high school track. I did 2 miles every single day. Imagine a 250-pound kid starting to run for the first time ever. Okay, very unhealthy. And I started losing weight. But what I found was that a lot of these symptoms, like the asthma was getting worse. I started getting massive headaches, low back pain, just because of so much stress on my body. And that's all I knew health to be, is like you eat very restrictedly and you run your ass off, if you don't mind me saying that, run your ass off all the time until you're pretty much dead. And so I did that. And I got into a massive car accident, I think when I was 18. And in that, I actually went to my chiropractor for the first time, and he taught me essentially everything about the nervous system, about the spine, how they relate to each other, and if I just gave my body a chance and an opportunity, that it will heal. And I took that philosophy and that mindset and I applied it to my life, and that's where I'm here. That's why I'm here today.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
As Les Brown said, from the mass comes your message. So really powerful story. Thanks for sharing, by the way.
Thank you.
I appreciate that very much, man. I was literally just last week. I turned 50 this year, August 8th, 50, which is crazy. Because man, I really feel like 25, and I'm like, dude, this, I can't control what I can control. I cannot control my age. But last week, one of my high school buddies wasn't super close.
Mm-hmm.
But I went to high school, it was close. I have a lot of friends in common. Just had a heart attack in Brazil, died, and Facebook. And I was just talking to my wife, and now having a 3-year-old and having a 1-year-old, it's truly, man, there's no more better investment than focusing on your health.
Mhm.
And you cannot be truly healthy if your nervous system is not healthy. And that's why I feel like chiropractors must be the focal point of the healthcare, you know what I mean? And being able to work along other experts too. So I'm super grateful for you, brother, for all the chiropractors out there who take care of families like mine. So I appreciate that, brother. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you again, man. I appreciate you having me.
Awesome. I put here the link below, Dr. Richard's podcast. If there's anybody want to reach out to you, what is the best way to connect with you?
You can find me on Facebook, just at Richard Ledda, or you can message me on Instagram at DRLEDDA at Dr. Ledda. The podcast page is at Chiro Inspired, or if you want to head over to my website, it's drledda.com, drledda.com.
Awesome. So as you know, we do a lot of speaking training, and I have an army of chiros who can speak really well and have a story to share. So if some of them want to reach out to you to be maybe a guest in a podcast, then what's the best way? Email or Facebook?
Facebook, yeah. Facebook message me or Instagram message me. I'm a millennial, man. I'm on all the stuff. So
I appreciate that, brother. Dr. Richard, thanks so much, brother. Very grateful to have you here. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing your story with us today. Much love, brother.
Thank you, brother.